Hi everyone, and welcome to Tom Clark's Comedy 20 Minutes. So, what's the deal with ants and the words about ants, ant words? I participate, participant, is it on par? This is an ant, and antiquate, is it an antiquation? And assurance, what are they doing to those ants? And anticipate, the ant pacing back and forth. The ant is pacing back and forth. And car jokes. You hear about the car that rolled over? It was a Corolla. And you hear about the car that was owned by a Vietnam vet? It was a Corvette. And then you hear about the car that was caught on cam in an accident and it shot like an arrow. It was a Camaro. And did you hear about the guy who was playing roulette and he shoved the wheel? It was a Chevrolet. And then the toy toter, it was a Toyota. It was a Toyota. And you know, what's the deal with these immigrants coming up and stealing our jobs? That's not the only thing they'll steal. Your car will be up on boxes in the neighborhood. They'll steal the rims. And did you hear about the tree that had a son? It was treason. You hear about the guy who had allergies? He didn't just say, oh, geez. It was in sneezing. And did you hear what the bison said? And he said goodbye to his son. He said, bye, son. And it's not a warlock, it's a wartlock. Excuse me. And, you hear about the clam that had a destiny to become a princess's necklace? It was clandestine. Which is actually the original word of clandestine. It was a clandestine. It comes from the word clam, which means a loud noise or uproar. And then destine, from destiny. And what about the cow that was late applying a stim pack to him? It was overstimulated. And you hear about the dog that went to a bank? He made a deposit. And what do you call a horse with large bulging eyes? A seahorse. And what do you call a horse who has a little fly, a little bug buzzing around his eye? A horse and buggy. Did you hear about the geraniums that fell? They were Geronimos. And, so, the, You hear about the guy who got in trouble for having marijuana on him? He got caught with pot. And so a buddy of mine, my friend, became a correctional officer. I told him, what if I was gay? If I was gay, would I be off a sir? And, what do you call an animal that wrecks everything, destroys everything? A T-Rex. And, you hear about the guy who clicked close out of or cancel on a transaction to sell a cat? It was a cat sell. And, did you hear about the pizza that had a mind? It was Pizza Mind. And so my girl fell asleep doing the dishes on the day. She was sleeping with the dishes. And, did Noah build a boat? Noah Ark. And, did you hear about the girl named Mia who someone asked if she could run a mile with a mouthful of food? He said, "Can me a mile." And, do you hear about the brain that got splattered all over the place? It was B-Rain. And, did you hear about the, Bible that got used as a tuck-9, a weapon, a gun? It was a biblioteca. And, did you hear about the, muscle that was very intelligent? It was muscle memory. And, why can you make so much money off of having a good memory? Because of memory banks. And, what do you call a farmer? How does a farmer tend to his crops in a very lazy and lackadaisical manner? He tilly-tallies. And, you hear about the guy who had pancreatic cancer, but he could still create anything out of a pan? He said, "Pan created? Yes, I can, sir." And, did you hear about the guy who pat his guinea pig while wearing an American flag windbreaker? And he tried it. He tried to. It was very patriotic. And, So what did the sand by the ocean say with all the people, a bunch of people standing on it? It said, "You're too hot. Y'all too hot for this beach. Y'all too hot for this beach. Y'all too hot for this beach. Y'all too hot for this beach." And did you hear about the guy who won a trophy for letting all his muscles waste away and fade away? He got atrophy. And did you hear what the color violet said when it finished doing something? It just did something. It did something. It completed what it was doing. It said, voila. And, did you hear about the guy who stole a pen? He depenned. And, what's another name for a snoz or a nose that is very cool? It's snazzy. And what's with the word blatant? It's making an ant be late. It's telling an ant to be late. Be late, ant. And did you hear about the guy who's trying to sing, but he couldn't figure out, he couldn't realize whether, he didn't know, he wasn't sure. If he was singing Figaro or Pickerel, he said Figaro, Figaro, Pickerel, Pickerel, Figaro, Figaro, Pickerel, Pickerel. And, so, what did the grandma say when she said hello in Spanish? She said granola. And, what did the Egyptian say who got a hold of someone? He said, call him. And, what about the guy who he played a joke about laying sideways? You know, like how you plank? He was a planktical joker. He made a plank call. And, if I was a woman, gave birth in Egypt, would she be a mummy? And did you hear about the guy who was a musician and he bumped his elbow? He played the oboe. And did you hear about the guy who farted on his phone? It wasn't a smartphone, it was a fart phone. And, did you hear what the orc ate for dinner? It was pulled pork. And, you hear about this the city of Tallahassee, Florida? It's laughing at and looking at a Tallahassee. And, did you hear about the guy who was so fat and dumb? The only thing that he passed was a Quiznos. And did you hear about the guy who was dying of the heat? He said, "Oh, the humidity." And did you hear about the calendar? I don't think it's a calendar. I think it's really a call in the door. The colander. And did you hear about me when I called this girl named Emma? It was I dialed her number. It was a dilemma. Yeah, that's it.